Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
3, 2, 1, and we are back, and we are going to talk a lot today about one of the best things you can be doing to create a never-ending, steady stream of free leads.
That's right. You heard it. Free.
That's right. Leads. We have your attention. We know we do.
Not the number 3, the word free. F-R-E-E. That's right.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through these points, and we're going to go through them relatively quickly. Now, I want you to open your mind, and we're going to present a point to you. And these are, by the way, I'll give you a foreshadow what this whole podcast today is going to be about. It's going to be how we've always called it, how to hot rod your for sale sign. Now, some of you don't have any listings, and that's okay. We've got a plan for you as well. But what we're going to prove to you over the next 30 minutes or less is that you can actually generate a very consistent, steady stream of amazing, sometimes even seller leads from your for sale signs. And why is it that you're not doing this? Well, hopefully you're going to self-discover as we go through these points. Julie, let's not delay anymore. Point number 1.
Point number 1, only your mobile number or your 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com number, which goes just to you, with the extension should be on your sign. Do not allow your sign calls to go to the receptionist, the in-office agent, or anyone besides you. It's your hard work. All leads go to you. And I would add to that any VAs or ISAs or anybody except you does not get your leads.
All right, so that's a little bit cryptic because Julie was talking about some things you guys aren't familiar with, so we're going to tell you now. First of all, write down this URL. I don't have a SMS code, so it's 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. 1-800, it's the number 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. And go to that website, and then what you're going to discover, and we're going to obviously talk more about this through our other points, is that when you use 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com, like we suggest you use it, not your version of what you think we said, but exactly how it says it on the website to use that service, you'll create a ridiculous number of leads, even in a slow market, which none of you are experiencing, frankly. But and Julie said something else. Your phone number is really one of the only assets of your real estate practice. Your phone number should be your phone number and the broker's phone number, or not the broker's phone number. Why? Because if you change brokers, that phone number is going to be the phone number that's saved in all of your past clients, all the neighbors' phones. That phone number to the broker, not to you. And I'm going to give you a little advanced coaching here. Now, some of you are saying, Tim, the state says that I have to do it that way. And I get it. Most states do. But what we will coach you guys to do right now is follow these instructions. You can have your own phone number on your signs, but on the bill, on the invoice, on the thing that you pay every single month that comes from the phone company, and maybe it's a T-Mobile or whatever, have the name of the broker. So the definition of what a broker's phone number is defined how? Is it the broker's phone number as identified by, are they paying for it? You can investigate your own state laws, but all I'm trying to impress upon you is the importance of maintaining control over one phone number throughout your entire real estate career, because that phone number is how people will find you, even more so than your email. And you guys know this is true because of SMS. So the first things first, 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. Second thing first is make sure the dominant phone number on your sign is a phone number you can control. And if you're in a state where you have to basically it has to be quote unquote the broker's phone number, follow the instructions I just gave you and have the broker's name on the invoice. It could literally be Tim and Julie Harris / EXP Realty. You guys get it? And then it's in compliance. Again, check with your local state. But every time I've suggested people do that, I've never had anyone say they had any problems with their divisions of real estate. Point number 2.
Point number 2, use 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com to capture leads that you would otherwise lose. Now, this system captures unlisted numbers, blocked numbers, calls coming in at all hours. You'll have more leads of higher quality using this system. Again, go to that website, 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. It's also an amazing competitive listing tool. So again, 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com to learn more and turn your sign into a lead generation machine. There is so much going on with 800 Home Hotline that is hard to do on a podcast. You really have to drill down. Of course, our coaching clients enjoy all of the coaching that goes with that, but it's just fantastic.
And you're also going to be in a situation, for example, like here's visually what your sign should look like. And Julie was suggesting you guys go to 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com and see the sample that's right there on the homepage. That's the best way of explaining it. But when you have a bunch of different phone numbers and a bunch of different calls to action on your sign, you're not going to get any leads from it because the consumer is confused as hell what they should be doing. And the top of your sign, the top of all your for sale signs or your directional signs when possible, you should have a very obnoxiously bright rider that says for free 24-hour recorded info on this home. And that's going to be in a smaller font. And then the next thing is going to be your unique 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com phone number in the extension that corresponds to that particular listing. Again, go to the website. You can see exactly what I'm talking about. But that is the large and in charge on the sign. That phone number has to be the most dominant thing on the sign. And again, if you're worried about state rules with regards to prominence and all the rest of it, then be in compliance with that. The phone number of your again, I know in many states the phone number of the broker, quote unquote, has to be the same prominence as, for example, your 800-HOME-HOTLINE.com sign, and that's not a problem whatsoever. But do not make any phone number or any CTA on your sign more dominant or prominent than the phone number for 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. And I think it's arguable, by the way, whether HOMEHOTLINE.com, 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com's phone number would even fall under the rules of the individual states as to whether that's technically the agent's phone number because it's their lead generation number.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And what happens is when someone calls 800-HOME-HOTLINE.com, what's going to do, it's a 24-hour, it says for free 24-hour recorded info on this house, right? And then they're going to put the individual extension in that corresponds to that particular listing. Now, why is someone going to do that versus QWR code or QR codes and all the rest of it are going to a website? Because it's easier. That's why. And it's quicker. And the best leads, like when you put a sign in the yard, a brand new listing, and it's got the 800-HOME-HOTLINE.com rider on the top, the first calls you're always going to get are the neighbors that are checking price. So make sure that in your recording when they call, it's going to be something very short and to the point. And we're going to talk more about that in future points. So stay tuned. Point number 3.
Yes, point number 3, lead generating off of your real estate sign. Install a clear, weatherproof home brochure box on every listing every time. Stop calling your brochures flyers. Flyers are what are handed out on the Strip in Las Vegas. Call them home brochures. It sounds better and it is better. You have high quality, full color home brochures. Use a simple but inviting description, lots of pictures, and of course, your phone number. Give the seller 50 more brochures to restock their sign. This is one way that they also know you're doing a great job for them. Now, agents will argue in this market, Tim. Why would I bother doing all that work when we have low inventory and it's going to probably sell right away? Well, they're missing the point.
You're missing the point because what you're doing, if nothing else, it's a great listing tool. So far, both of these ideas are killer listing tools. Mr. Seller, listen, here's the biggest challenge you have with real estate agents. I want you to think about what I'm saying, listeners, that when you call a real estate agent, they're never going to answer the call. You're going to end up talking to a VA in the Philippines. You're going to have all these, frankly, awkward conversations, and you probably never hear back from them at all anyway. But when your home is for sale with me and the sign is in your front yard and it says very clearly for free 24-hour recorded info on this house, call 1-800-555-1212 and push in whatever extension corresponds to the listing. Mr. Seller, here's their experience. And listeners, here is the experience. The buyer or whoever's calling is going to call. They're going to listen to a short recording that you're going to do, or you can have an assistant do it, frankly. Not a long, breathy recording, something short. And then while they're listening, you actually get a text with their phone number. And here's the little secret sauce. Because they called your 800 number, and it might be an 888 number, it might be, anytime that anyone calls a toll-free number where the person you're calling is paying for the call, they get a report of who called. That's how this system works. So when you call, when someone calls off your sign and they're listening to that recording, you're going to get a text with their phone number, cell phones, whatever phone number they're calling from, and then you call them back urgently. You close that loop. And this is simply what you say, and I'm jumping on one of your points, but that's fine. Okay. So you call them back right away, and you say, ring, ring, hello, Mr. Seller. Hi, this is Tim Harris with eXp Realty. As a courtesy, when people call our 800 number, we like to give them a quick call back to see if they have any questions about the home they called about. Now you call them back right away. So they just listened to the recording. They just stopped listening to the recorder, hung up the phone, as it were. You're calling them back urgently. You don't think you just blew them into the weeds as far as your professionalism? Now, if that was a prospective neighbor who was thinking about putting their house for sale, didn't you just pretty much guarantee that you're going to at least have a shot at getting their listing?
You know what? You and I have had so many of these calls, and
We
some of
have.
our coaches and our coaching clients. You know what they always say? Are you a real person?
Julie and I had some of our biggest transactions. This technology has been around forever, right? It's just not new. It's been around forever, and it's still around because it works really well. But we had some of our biggest double-in transactions from exactly what I'm explaining to you guys right now. I'll tell the story really quick. I'll never forget. I was standing in the kitchen in our house in New Albany, and I remember it was like 7:30, and I got a message that someone had just called interested in one of our more expensive listings for sale. So I called him right back, and not only was he shocked that someone was calling him back at that time, but it turned out he was an executive who was one of the first to be relocating to mostly New Albany, followed by 7 other executives in the least expensive home that any of them bought at the time was like $700,000 or $800,000. And it's all because I called them back right away, because he realized that we were going to be Johnny on the spot with servicing not just him, but all the other people that were following. Now, those were all buyer side transactions, but lo and behold, a few years later, a lot of those guys put those houses back for sale, and we got those listings again.
That's right.
Urgency matters. If you guys want to have an advantage in your marketplace, I got news for you. It's not your brand. It's not your social media. It's your urgency and your energy and enthusiasm. If you have urgency with following up with leads and answering questions, and you have great levels of energy and enthusiasm when you're doing so, you will win more often than you lose. And because why? People want to do business with you.
And when they're calling on your sign, these are some of the best leads. Think about that. I think sign calls are so underrated, but they should be number one because of the low inventory. It's a fantastic lead generator. So for example, point number 4, using your 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com number and a specific extension for the home on the back of your brochures, remember you have a brochure box, advertise, quote, for information on all homes available and upcoming in the XYZ school district or subdivision, call this number. Become the specialist in that neighborhood or in that MLS code. Be the one that everybody calls to find out about listing activity. I can't read.
So what the gist of this one is, on the back of the brochure, have a list of all the other homes that are for sale, and then maybe if you want to, have those attached to an extension too, so people can get the information on that. Make it so that when someone hits your sign and there's a brochure box in there, remember this is about how to hot rod your for sale sign. It's not just about brochure boxes or 1-800-HOME hotline. It's how to hot rod your sign. But put all the other competing listings in that particular neighborhood on the back of that brochure. Why? Because then that prospective buyer, who also might be a seller, isn't going to call that other listing agent asking about their house for sale, because you've already given them the information. You guys get it?
Now, caveat to that, if they are not all of your listings, which they probably won't be, you just have to have a little asterisk at the bottom that says information gleaned from the whatever MLS.
And put an MLS number. It's no big deal.
No big deal.
Point number 5.
Point number 5, recognize that not all sign calls that seem like just another buyer call are only buyers. Use the script every single time. Which home in the area do you plan on selling? Buyer leads are listing leads in disguise. Excuse me. The first calls on your sign or home brochure box are almost always listing leads. They're neighbors checking the price.
So I was giving you guys a little script. A ring, hello. Hi, this is Tim. They just called the 800-HOME hotline. They just hung up the phone. I'm calling them back right away. You're calling them back right away. Hi, this is Tim Harris with eXp Realty. As a courtesy, when people call our 800 number, we like to give them a quick call back to see if they have any questions about the home they called about. And Julie, as she described it, is exactly what will happen. Half the time, they're going to be shocked that it's a real human, right? And they're going to be frankly shocked that it's a real human that doesn't have a foreign country accent. I'm not, being a xenophobe, but the reality of it is that some of you guys have gotten so lazy with delegating one of the most important things, which is your own lead follow-up. You don't realize your lead follow-up is done at a very poor level, and you're wondering why you're not converting more leads.
All true.
But then they're going to say, well, I was just calling on 123 Elm Street. Is that house still available? Or they might have more questions about it. And here's what you're going to say. Let me check to find out the status of that listing. Listen to what I'm saying, listeners. And the next thing you say is, oh, by the way, which house in the neighborhood are you thinking about selling? Do you understand what I just did there, listeners? I want to go directly to whether they have a house to sell. I do not want to have a long song and dance bonding talking about what kind of dog they have. Some of you guys have been so poorly trained that you're supposed to bond. I got news for you. They don't want to bond with you. They want the information that they want. The world has changed since the whole over-bonding and fake friending training, which was real prevalent like 20 years ago. Nowadays, people want the information. They want to get off the phone. You're calling them back. They're impressed. They want more information. You're going to get it. You're going to ask which house in the neighborhood that they're thinking about selling. You will then discover, depending on the price point of the house they called on, at least 50% of the time, their neighbors doing price checks because they're thinking about putting their houses for sale.
Absolutely.
Do you guys get it? Now, if you have your 800 home hotline sign writer working for you prior to the actual listing, maybe it's a coming soon, right? You're going to get all those local sellers, prospective sellers. They're going to raise their hand because they're interested in what the price is, because they're going to be putting their houses for sale in the next 60 to 90 days. If you follow the rest of our script and our process, you'll at least have a shot at getting that listing appointment. Look, guys, I know you love this podcast. You guys, tens of thousands of you listen to it every single day. Remember, the next natural step for all of you is to join Premier Coaching. Just text the word Premier to 47372 or just go to premiercoaching.com. And yes, you can join Premier Coaching right now for free. So just go to premiercoaching.com. Or just text the word Premier to 47372. Remember, when texting, message and data rates may apply. But guys, instant access to Premier Coaching for free. You love what you're learning now. You won't believe the elevated experience you have when you're a coaching client. Next point, Julie.
Point number 6, do not hire virtual assistants to, quote, convert your sign calls. Do not force your sign callers to go to a website, opt in, or do anything other than call you. Also, actually answer the phone or call back immediately like we were just talking about. Furiously fast lead follow-up is what our coaching clients practice, and it works. Your best leads are sitting out in front of your listings right now, wanting to see it ASAP and possibly buy it, or they are listing leads. They also have a house to sell. So be the one who helps them when they need help. They always say the same thing. You're the only agent that answered the phone. You're the only agent that called back. I left messages, and you're the only one who I could get.
I know what you're saying. I just read your collective minds. I don't have a listing. I get it. First of all, that's job number 1, to get a listing. You don't have a listing, you can put an 800 home sign writer on another agent's listing with their permission, obviously. And because they're probably not doing anything with the leads, that they're not doing anything with sign leads. They might not even have a sign in the yard.
Right.
You might ask if you can put a supplemental sign in the yard that's directing people to call the 800 home hotline number, and then you glean those leads. You guys get it? So don't use lack of listings as your excuse not to actually use this service. You can do the same thing with new construction. You can do the same thing with vacant lots. You can do this across the board. The reason why 800 home hotline works is because they're getting what they want, how they want it quickly, and they're doing it, frankly, in a very, the barrier to entry to get the information doesn't exist. It's a phone call. Now, why wouldn't QWR codes work the same way? Because you can't capture their phone number and call them back. That's why. They're getting the information. They're downloading the app. They're seeing what the pictures are. Then you're waiting for them to respond. You are not going to get their information to call them back. You might get a digital, an email address, but it's not the same as getting a phone number. With a phone number, you call them back. Don't text them back. Call them back. Don't put them on a drip campaign and thinking your drip's going to somehow get them to want to do business with you. Call them back. Oh, I'm too busy. No, you're not. Oh, I've got an assistant in, Cambodia that does this for me. Do it yourself. You've got to learn how to actually do a high-level, furiously fast lead follow-up in this market, because you will quickly discover, and when you do, don't kick yourself for having learned this lesson the hard way, that at least, again, depending on your price point, 50% of all the buyer leads who you're too busy to talk to are actually home sellers that you could have been at least having a shot at getting the listing. Next point, Julie.
Point number 7, do use in-contract or pending writers and then sold on your signs. This is another lazy agent problem, right? You do want to do in-contract, pending, and sold. This is some of the most valuable, least expensive, most effective advertising you can do. Get permission even from the new owner after it closes to keep your sold sign up for a week after closing. Keep your home brochures in the box, but change the message to a compelling message like, good news, I sold this home in XYZ neighborhood in less than 24 hours. Bad news, there's 5 more people wanting to live here. Call me today to see if I already have a match for your home.
And some of you in some markets, you can actually, if you brought the buyer to a listing after the listing agent removes their sign, with permission, assuming it's okay with your MLS rules, you can put a sign in the front yard stating that you're the buyer, you represented the buyer on that particular house. And we have a lot of coaching and training on this, but another move is going to be when you sell a house to somebody in a particular community, obviously, then you're going to go in there and you're going to, with the new owner's permission, you're going to do a housewarming party for him. You're going to invite the neighbors. You're going to go out and let the neighbors know you're the one that brought the buyer. You guys get it? Be proactive. That's what all of this market is about. That's what being successful long-term is about. Doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. You guys think that what you're looking for is on the other side of a click or a leads funnel or some sort of call to action. It's on the other side of you having direct communication. The more of a buffer you put between you and the actual consumer, the less likely they are to ever do business with you. So whatever it takes for you to have a direct conversation in any market, but especially this market, is going to result in you winning far more than not. Point number 8.
Point number 8 is simple, and then we'll do number 9 quickly too. Consider using reflective real estate signs on your rural properties, or really any properties, but especially rural and land. They last longer. They reflect like a stop sign. It's a point of difference. I just read my own mind. This is another point of difference on listing appointments. Those things, I bet you those last 3 or 4 years longer than normal signs
So
too.
we need to tell them what the heck that means. So if you guys can Google it, there's several companies that sell reflective real estate signs, and the company that I hope they're still in business was called Reflective Real Estate. And this is the same technology that they make stop signs out of. In other words, headlights hit the signs and then the signs glow. Well, that is and I'll share with you guys something else too. In many of your markets, the reason that all the for sale signs are the same size isn't because that's the size, and I know people told you this, but it's not true. That's the size that, that this local sign company told you could make the signs in. In other words, the local sign company makes frames in a certain size, makes the riders in a certain size. They don't have any other optional sizes. And then the brokers never stop to ask, well, are there zoning rules that allow us to make larger signs? The local sign company is probably not saying, well, guess what? I don't sell a larger sign. You need to get larger signs. And I remember when Julie and I were selling in Columbus, Ohio, the sign that we actually ended up using was probably about 50% larger than everyone else's sign. Yeah, we had to have somebody with a larger vehicle, plant the signs. But the signs were metal, so they lasted for years. The signs were reflective, so that when they put them in the yard, they glowed. And, imagine Julie's using the example as rural, but it works in any market. If you're driving down a dark street and it's at night and the headlights hit the sign, you're going to see that sign for miles before you come up. You're going to think it's an alien, right? You guys get the point? But the other thing with these reflective signs is it is a point of differentiation. I know it's just a little gimmick really at the end of the day, but when you are talking to that seller, that does make a big difference when you're, again, showing these little tiny extra things that you do. Again, remember, it's what's in it for the seller, and branding is not when it's in it for the seller. Some of you guys have been led to believe that the stronger you brand, the more likely people are going to want to do business with you. That is the exact opposite of how consumers think. Consumers want to know what's in it for me. A bunch of videos you have of yourself and your dog on YouTube is not when it's in it for me. But if you're saying, I have this 800homehotline.com system, I'm going to call your leads back right away. We're going to put a brochure box on your sign. We're going to call your leads right away. We're going to capture more leads. We're going to have this reflective real estate sign. All these tiny little unique selling propositions add up to something significant. It really, truly does. In all market conditions, in all price ranges. Next point, Julie.
Point number 9, don't have a confusing, overly busy-looking sign with 3 hang-down riders and 14 phone numbers, a QR code, a website, and your Facebook address. Keep it simple. One number, which goes straight to you. That's why we were talking about 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com.
I did see something hilarious the other day, though. It was on Instagram. Somebody put a picture, and the sign was really well done. Overall, very clean. They were actually using an IVR system like 800 Home Hotline. But they had an extra rider on the sign, which we don't suggest. But the extra rider says, buy this home, get a carton of eggs for free.
Oh, I saw that too. Isn't that hilarious?
I thought it was hilarious.
Because by now the eggs are like worth more than the house, right?
I know, but I thought that was so funny.
Very cute, very cute.
Yeah.
Okay, so point number 10, our final point today, open houses are also fantastic lead generators, so use your sign to advertise your upcoming opens. Use inexpensive bandit signs to direct traffic to your open house and door knock the homeowners whose yards you're planting signs in. Remember, we talked about that on our previous podcast, all about how to monetize your opens. Ask them who they know who you should invite to your open house. Follow up on all open house leads using our system and scripts to immediately convert leads to listings.
Now, I'm going to close today by saying this. A lot of you guys have been asking Julie and I about what it takes to join eXp Realty. And we've made it very simple for you. This is the simplest way for you to go forward with your exploration. So you have 2 paths to follow, so please pay attention. Number one, if you're just getting started, you want to learn more about eXp Realty, just text the letters EXP to 47372. Text the letters EXP to 47372. If you have not chosen a sponsor and you're ready to join eXp Realty and you want to be sponsored by Julie and I personally, text me directly on my cell phone, which is 512-758-0206. Again, 512-758-0206. I have to say I am thrilled with how many of you are, frankly, moving forward with moving up to eXp. There's not been eXp is made for a market like this. Their earnings came out the other day, and eXp, guess what? Grew by 20% last year, had a profit last year, and all the other large companies were going the exact opposite direction. You guys can succeed. You can grow your businesses. You can grow your income in a market like this because of the fact that, I'll give you guys a true story. I was on the phone yesterday with an agent from Compass, and this is an agent with a team, and we were doing the math on what they were paying the broker, and in this case it was Compass, and the difference between what they were paying eXp and what they were paying Compass, Compass was going, in essence, charging them $200,000 more than what they'd have to pay at eXp. And if you're in a market right now where everyone's wondering where's the inventory, people are worried about interest rates, all the market gyrations we're experiencing right now, the very smartest first thing you should be considering is absolutely positively increasing the net you're making from every transaction. And the simplest way to do that is let's have a conversation about eXp Realty. And there's so many other advantages, obviously, but that's job number one, is you've got to be looking at what you're going to do to increase your net. If all you sell are the same number of homes you sold last year, and new agents who sold nothing, I know that that's not relevant to you. That is not going to be good enough, because in a marketplace like this, you can actually be gaining market share because, frankly, other agents lack direction. This is the direction all of you should consider. If you're looking for information about eXp and you're just getting started on your journey, it's very simple. Just text the letters EXP to 47372. Or if you'd like to be sponsored and you've not yet chosen a sponsor, Julie and I would love the opportunity to earn the right. It would be our honor to be your sponsor. Text me directly at 512-758-0206. So hopefully today's podcast did the three things that we set out to do every day, which is educate you, motivate you, and now, of course, it's your time to
get into action.
Yes, so use this information. We've gave you a lot of great ideas. Don't take your for sale signs for granted. Your for sale sign, as crazy as this is to say, is one of the most valuable marketing pieces ever made forever. Because what would Coca-Cola or what would Google or what would anybody pay to put a large sign in the front yard of some home, right? You can't do that. Zoning prevents it unless you're a real estate agent. Real estate agents have carve-outs all over planet Earth to put actual billboards in front of people's houses.
With their phone number on it.
Exactly. And that is so incredibly powerful. And yet, many of you don't even do signs. Or your signs are just some crappy sign that everyone else uses. Or your sign looks like everybody else's sign. That is called stupid.
And lazy.
It's so easy to differentiate yourself with just a sign.
Tim, here's the thing. I think that what we're talking about today is one of the biggest blessings of a low inventory market.
Completely.
Is even with just one listing, it is a lead machine. It's just astonishing. And then that you spin that into an open house. Open houses are getting like 100 people at a time.
That's right.
I mean, that's a great thing about low inventory, but you've got to be the one with the listing. And that brings us back to coaching, of course. But then you can apply all of these things, the 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. Those scripts are all included in coaching. So you're just, a couple steps away from launching all of this. And pretty much everything we talked about today isn't going to cost you anything. I mean, even 800 Home Hotline, I think, what is it, $37 a month? It's virtually nothing.
It's like nothing. And there's no added fees. There's no added expense.
No,
it's like a
unlimited.
flat fee. Right, exactly. So guys, take action on this information. Your homework, number one, go to 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com and sign up. Number two, when doing so, do not deviate from the suggestions and the instructions on 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. Otherwise, it is guaranteed not to work. Right. Rule number two, do consider upgrading your for sale signs. Homework number two. Homework number three is if you're not in Premier Coaching, we strongly encourage you to do so immediately. And obviously, just go to premiercoaching.com. And homework number four, for those of you guys who are ready to step up in your real estate careers, let's talk about you guys partnering with Julie and I at eXp Realty, and just text me directly at 512-758-0206. In the meantime, have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.